What's happening, everybody? This is MTB, and I'm here on our new segment called Band Conversation, where we're going to explore a lot of the topics and concerns that are happening in our community, and we're just going to be raw and uncut and get straight to the point. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope the new year has been good to you thus far. I hope you're blessed and your family's good and everybody's having a great new year so far. So here we are in the new year 2019, and we are in the month of January, and we have so many different things to talk about. But I think one of the things that is current, probably happened here in the last day or so, is issues with the current president. And the latest thing that I've seen is that our president got a chance to invite the Clemson Tigers football team, who just won a national championship, to come to the White House. Now, if you know anything about sports, anytime a team, whether it be professional or college, when you win the championship, when you win the title, it's been tradition that the team as a whole would travel to the White House, and they will get to have a banquet style dinner with the president. You get to meet the president, you get to sit and talk with him, you get to interact with him and his family and his staff, and it's a big deal. It's a big prestigious event. And so, you can't come any kind of way. Usually the teams come, everybody has their suit and tie on, and everybody's dressed accordingly. And there's a big spread laid out, a big banquet style dinner that's held in the banquet room of the White House. Now, this is such a prestige event that this is something that is going to be memorable for a lifetime for anyone that has the opportunity to enjoy this privilege with the current president. Now, in recent years, it hasn't been an issue. Every team that has ever won a championship went to the White House and enjoyed their time with the president. With our current president and with the issues that come along with him, several teams have declined to go and have this dinner with the president due to a lot of his antics and a lot of his opinions and how he feels about certain things. And y'all know we don't need to get into that, but a lot of teams have declined to go to the White House. So here we have a college team, the Clemson Tigers, who just won a championship, and they came as a team, as a whole, to have this banquet style dinner with the president. Well, when they got there, first of all, we're in a government shutdown due to the president and some more of his antics and him wanting to build a wall and things of that nature. So they get to the White House. Everybody has on their suit and tie, and everybody's dressed accordingly, and they're ready to have this banquet style dinner with the president. Well, the president has laid out a spread of Big Macs, quarter pounds, Wendy's, hamburgers. I think he even said there was pizza and fries. And so now you have these young men who have come for an experience with the president that's going to be memorable. This is something they're going to hold for the rest of their life, because everybody doesn't get to go to the White House and have dinner with the president. And I don't know why he thought that it was okay to serve fast food to these young men who came to have a banquet style dinner with the president. Now, any of us who've been to college, we live off fast food. That's how many of us got through college. So, hamburgers and stuff like that is the norm. When I think I'm going to the White House for a banquet style dinner, I'm expecting something that's going to be out of the norm, something I usually don't get to eat. I don't get to dine in this particular type setting, so I'm expecting an overall experience, and I'm pretty sure that they were expecting the same thing, but instead they were just giving fast food. It may not be anything to anybody else, but to me that seems very insulting that the president of the United States thought that it was okay to have an entire team come in a tradition that other teams have came and had a banquet style dinner. And I'm sure this was a big event that was hyped up and that these young men were excited about it. But when they get there, you're only given fast food. We could have stopped at we passed 12 fast food places on the way to the White House. You could have just stopped the bus and we could have all just ate fast food. You know what I'm saying? The Clemson Tigers, I'm pretty sure I never been to the campus, but I'm pretty sure there's a fast food place either close to the campus, if not on campus, because many of the colleges, they actually have fast food restaurants that are located on campus. So you mean to tell me that these young men have gone through all this preparation in hopes of having a wonderful experience, an epic experience, a big blown out event, to only be given fast food? Now that may not be nothing to you, but it just seems very insulting to me. So I get into that, opening up to start to say this. Here on Band Conversation, one of the things that we need to acknowledge, and this is going to be the first video, this is going to be the first conversation that we're going to get into. We as a people have a responsibility. And I'm not labeling that as a race of people, because I believe there's a responsibility for African Americans. I believe there's a responsibility for non-African Americans. I also believe there's a responsibility of us as Americans as a whole. But we have a responsibility as citizens of this country to uphold certain things. And the way we do that is that we've been given certain rights and certain privileges that we have to take advantage of. So we have a responsibility to do things. And I heard this said several times. I even said it myself, that many of us chose not to participate in the voting when it came to electing the president, in which case we have the president that we have now. I said it then, and I'm going to restate it, and I'm pretty sure others have done the same. Don't complain now about what's going on and how the country is being ran, when we as a people, all of us, had an opportunity to voice our opinion and who we wanted to be the leader of this country, and we didn't do so. Now, I understand you may not have liked the person's running. You may not have liked the current president. You may not have liked the person he was running against. But even if you don't like them individually, you still have a responsibility to make a decision and use your right to vote to make sure that the best person possible is in that position. Now, it's my personal opinion. You may not feel this way, but the right person for the job is not doing the job. And that's simply because many of us took it upon ourselves not to utilize our right to vote. Now, as an African American, we have a different responsibility. We have to vote. We must vote, and if you don't vote for any other reason, even if you don't like the candidates, you have to use your right to vote. You should use your right to vote, because people actually gave their lives. Your ancestors, your family members, people who are your blood, who are connected to you, gave their lives, sacrificed so much so that we can even just have the opportunity to vote, and we choose not to use it. That alone is insulting, not only to us as African Americans, but it's insulting to your own family. How would you feel if someone disrespected your family member? You'd be upset. You're taking offense to it. But you don't take offense to when you individually don't use your right to vote and you are an offense to your own family. You're disrespecting your family. You're disrespecting people in your heritage, in your bloodline, your ancestors who fought for the right for us to have that right to vote. And we choose not to. It's like we're throwing away a privilege that people gave their lives for. At the same time, it's our responsibility to have that right to vote and to utilize it. So here we are in a situation where we don't like the things that the current president is doing, but how many of us actually took action and went out and voted? How many of us voted in the local election? Because in the local election, you have to elect officials who are either going to support the things that you don't like the current president doing, or they're going to go against and fight against what the current president is doing. Again, these elected officials are the voice of the communities that we live in. They're the voice of the people. So if we're not electing people to speak on the issues that we see fit in the community, or the issues that we have a problem with in our community, in our country, if we're not electing the right people to go in there and speak on our behalf, then you can't have no complaint. Then you can't say, well, I don't like this about the president, or I don't like that about the president, because you didn't utilize your right to vote. We have a responsibility to do so. In other news, I also heard, I believe it was yesterday, I heard Pastor Jamal Bryant on the radio, and he was saying that he was recruiting other churches and other people to be a part of, they're trying to raise money for Bennett College, which is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm assuming, I believe that's right, Greensboro, North Carolina. But it's one of the historically black colleges, but it's only one of two historically black colleges that are all women's colleges. And that college is in danger of losing their credibility. And so Pastor Jamal Bryant was on the radio. He was speaking on how it's very important that we support the HBCUs. I want to say this about us having a responsibility as well. This is for us as African Americans. It's imperative that we support HBCUs. Yes, I know they have the bigger schools, and yes, I know there's the name and the prestige that come along with the bigger schools, but there's also prestige, pride, heritage, culture, and so many other things wrapped up in HBCUs that we take for granted. Understand, the same way we have ancestors and family members that fought for us to have the right to vote, we also have ancestors and family members that fought for us to have the right to education. We love our black culture. We love the black history, but we do not support now in today's time what has come from that black culture, what has come from that black history, what has come from the struggle, the marches, and the protests that our ancestors had to do back in the day just for us to be able to go to school. You understand? It was not that long ago that schools were segregated. It wasn't that long ago when the National Guard had to escort African Americans into a school building so that they could get an education like everybody else. And you have to understand that back in the day, you couldn't go to Harvard. You couldn't go to Yale. You couldn't go to UNC. We got a bunch of UNC and Duke fans, but you couldn't go to those schools. You couldn't go to Georgia. You couldn't go to Tennessee. You couldn't even go to Clemson. And they just won a national championship. You have to understand that back in the day, the HBCUs were the only schools that would allow us to get a college education. The HBCUs were the only schools for many of us who were unable to get into these bigger universities. That was the only place we could go to get an education. So a lot of times the HBCUs, being smaller schools, being not having the big names as the other schools, we don't get the support when we should get the support from our own community. If our own community alone would support the HBCUs, everything will be all right. That should never be a conversation that HBCUs are in danger of losing their credibility or in danger of have their doors closed because we African Americans are not supporting HBCUs. How is that possible when majority of HBCUs are located in black communities? Majority of HBCUs should be filled. You should be knocking down the doors to get to an HBCU, but for whatever reason, we've chosen to go away from the HBCU. So again, we have a responsibility, because what happens when the last HBCU has to close its doors? What we're literally saying is that when we're allowing something that our ancestors have given their lives for to be taken away because we in this generation are not supporting something that was put in place by people giving their lives so that the next generations could have a place to study, could have a place to call their own. And we, the next generation, we're letting our grandparents down. We're letting down our great-grandparents. We're letting down our ancestors who were slaves and who came out of slavery. We're letting them down by allowing these HBCUs, places that were specifically for people of color, to be shut down because we are not supporting them. But we go out and we buy jerseys and we buy apparel from other NCAA schools that don't support our communities. We go out and we are recruited to play sports for bigger schools that do not support our communities. We go and we get degrees from schools that don't support our communities, but there are schools literally right here in our community that are HBCUs that can give you the exact same accreditation, that can give you the exact same degree, and not only that, a better education, could give you a better networking of men and women of color. And when we always say we want to uplift the black community, we want to do more in the black community, we want to support black businesses and we want to support black men and women who are doing things in our community, this is where you find them. This is where you network with them. You find them in the HBCUs. You have more of an opportunity to network with people within the HBCUs who are part of your community. But we go outside of that. We go to these other universities and then we want to come back and say, oh, I want to be a part of the black community. But while you're going over here, taking your money, taking your time, taking your talent to other schools, the HBCUs are dying. So what happens when we protest and we Black Lives Matter and we want to do this for the black community and we want to do that for the black community, but when you have an opportunity to support something that's literally for the black community, that was founded for no other purpose but to be a service to the black community, so that whenever there was an issue of education, we always had somewhere to go. And these places, these institutions are losing their credibility. They're being shut down. They are literally closing their doors because we are not taking our responsibility as African Americans and supporting things that are for African Americans. So I said all that to say this. We have a responsibility. There are certain things that we have to do, that we need to do as individuals. There are things we need to do as a community. There are things we need to do as a people, as a group of people. There are things we need to do as a generation. There are things that we need to do for the next generation. We have a responsibility, and I can't tell you what to do. I can only present the issues and I can present my point of view on it, and I would hope that it would spark something in someone, that it would get them to understand how important it is for us to utilize the things that we have, the things that we take for granted, the things that we fail to realize that, hey, these things could be taken away tomorrow. The way the government is right now, we're in a government shutdown, for I think it's 25 days now. People have not been getting paid. People who have government jobs, they're not getting paid. They don't have any assistance. They don't have any insurance, and when the government does open back up, they don't get that back pay. They don't get paid for the days that they're missing. So people are actually going to work and not receiving the paycheck. Now for us, that's an issue, because for a lot of us, we don't have the savings and we don't have the wealth to say, well, hey, I just ain't gonna go to work today. For a lot of us, we're middle class and we're living paycheck to paycheck. We have families to support. We have bills to pay. There's no way a bill collector is going to call you and say, well, we're in a government shutdown. I'll get you when the government open back up. They ain't trying to hear that. They not trying to understand. They ain't trying to work with you. They ain't trying to give you no leeway. What they doing is they charging you. And if they don't cut something off, best believe they're going to be late fees attached to it. But we currently have a president who's a billionaire. He ain't worrying about a government shutdown. He get paid either way it go. His businesses are making money right now as we speak. But they are Americans, not black people, not white people, not Hispanic people. They're just simply Americans, people who live in this country, who are trying to make an honest living, and you going to work and can't get paid. You're not going to get paid when the government opens back up. But this is part of the responsibility that we have as a people. We have to take advantage of every voice, every avenue that we have to make our opinions known. We can protest, we can march, but if we ain't gonna do nothing when they open up the voting polls, it don't mean nothing. If we not gonna do nothing but talk and run our mouth on social media, yeah, I'm right here with you. I'm doing band conversation, but best believe I went and voted. Best believe every time there's an opportunity to vote, I'm going to vote, because we have a responsibility. I currently right now have a degree from an institution that's not an HBCU. But guess what? Speaking for me and nobody else, I'm currently researching ways to get back into an HBCU to further my education, because I'm looking to obtain a couple more degrees. And guess what? Those degrees are going to be from HBCUs, because we have a responsibility to do certain things that have been given to us. They're not privileges. They're privileges now, but they will work hard for. People fought for them. People died for us to have these rights. So it's our responsibility to take some responsibility for our communities, for the country that we live in. This is MTB for Band Conversation. Y'all be blessed, and we'll do this again real soon.